Hello and welcome to Nug and Cymek review DC Comics, the New 52, where every week Nug and I review every single one of the new DC titles. I'm Andrew Cymek, and I'm actually by myself today. Nug is doing rehearsals for his new musical show that opens tomorrow, so unfortunately he's not going to be able to review the books, but I'm going to try my best to do a fair and balanced job at looking at this week's new DC titles. First up is Justice League International number 4. This book continues the story of the Signal Masters and has Batman and Booster teaming up, as well as bringing the entire team back together to meet the new threat, Paraxis. This book has a moment that made me laugh out loud. Godiva actually finally shows that she is useful for something, and she and Batman provide a great laugh. I'm really enjoying this series. I actually went back to read Generation Lost, Judd Winnick's take on the JLI, and that book, I mean, if you guys haven't picked it up, it's available in the trade paperbacks. Generation Lost is a great Justice League International book, and this is a good Justice League International book. I find that this book in particular, though, seems to drag the story on a little too long. There's not enough in this book that happens to be like, okay, let's take it on another issue. There's some great art in this. We got a full page spread of the actual team together in an action pose, and next week's issue will be the last of this first arc. Overall, Justice League International continues to be a fun book. I would have preferred maybe more story and more development in this particular issue, but it's still worth a pickup. Up next, Batwing number 4. In Batwing number 4, we actually find out a little bit about Batwing's origin, and we didn't really like the first 2 issues of Batwing. Number 3 was starting to get better. Batwing number 4, it's still on the course of being a good book. I'm not 100% sold on the Batwing character. Nug would say the similarities between Batwing and Batman with his own Alfred, maybe it would bug him. I can kind of see the point where you almost want a much more different character. Having said that, it's not enough to deter away from this issue. It's actually a very good book, and I actually like the starting of the telling of the Batwing origin story with he and his brother Isaac. It's really good. The artist is different on this. It's crisscross on this issue. So Nug would say we get to see backgrounds, but I don't know if it's a good trade-off for art. It is a little, more detailed, but to be honest, I was kind of getting used to the darkness, almost like the painting style of the previous issues, and it's kind of jarring just to change the style in such a distinct way. I'll talk about Swamp Thing later, also changes the artist, but they do their best impression of that artist's work, whereas this is definitely a departure from the previous issues. It is good to say, though, that Batwing is getting better, and I am a Judd Winnick fan, and like I said, I just pitched his Generation Lost miniseries, Justice League International. I'm curious to see where he's going with the Batwing character. I'm actually now on board this arc. Despite some maybe quasi-cheesy moments Batwing has where it's, we've heard a couple of lines uttered so many times in movies and books that maybe they've become a bit of a cliche. But if you're enjoying Batwing, I think you're going to enjoy number 4. If you're not, I don't know if it's enough to sway your mind. Up next is Green Arrow, What Blood Rose Hunts, Blood Rose Kills. Nug and I enjoyed the first 3 issues of Green Arrow. I specifically said that I found that the social commentary aspect of Green Arrow was a selling feature for the book for me. Yeah, you could forget about all of that. They throw that out the window with Keith Giffen now on board the book. Dan Jurgens still doing the art. Having said that, Green Arrow number 4 almost plays off like a number 1 as well. So if you weren't sold on the first 3 issues, this is kind of like a jumping on point for you. It really shows Oliver having a difficulty balancing his life at Q-Corps and as Green Arrow. We have a lot of people talking in his ear and him actually dealing with that, where it's kind of difficult to concentrate all the time. They introduced a new character, Blood Rose, who has a severe obsession with Green Arrow. Overall, this is a fun book. It's definitely a departure from the first 3, although because the artist is the same, you do get that similarity. I'm curious to see where it goes. This is just pure slam bam action now. I can't see them tacking on a social commentary message on this, but there's nothing wrong with a comic book that's just action and fun. And Green Arrow number 4 is that. Up next, Static Shock number 4. Static Shock is one of those comics that Nug and I just really did not like. We wanted to like the character. We were new to Static Shock. I mean, Nug watched the show, but I didn't. So Static Shock was new to me, and one of my complaints was that Static Shock actually didn't have a clear voice. In issue number 4, he has a voice. But correct me if I'm wrong, and for those of you reading Static Shock, to me, he actually sounded a lot like the other guy's Spider-Man. A lot of tongue-in-cheek bad puns when he's fighting the villains. I mean, some really groaners. Yeah, I'm sorry to say, for me, Static Shock isn't really getting better. It's more of the same. They keep adding a lot more villains, and in terms of the Static Shock character, I'm actually now finding him a bit of a letdown and kind of a ripoff in terms of his voice. Up next, Hawk&Dove number 4. What would Nug say about Hawk&Dove number 4? He probably wouldn't want to talk about it. But I don't mind talking about it. Is it a good book? Still, I cannot recommend Hawk&Dove. Stuff is happening. If you're actually enjoying Hawk&Dove, I'll have to say this though. They are trying to give you pieces of a larger story that perhaps will come into play later on. But if you didn't really care about that story in the first 3 issues, then number 4 is not really going to draw you in. It's really just more of the same. Slight spoiler. The bad guys kidnap Boston Brand, I guess because it's the one character that we both cared about in the first 3 issues. Why not kidnap him and set Dove on this thing, this quest? They're doing things with the characters that I'm sure they want to do. The art, I have no comment on the art. You can find anyone's comments. You either like it or you don't. But in terms of the storyline, I want to say that it's starting to get interesting, but just not to the point where I can still recommend it. I mean, it's far from being a recommendation for me. Up next, StormWatch number 4. This is the book where, if you're not known to the Wildstorm universe, this is the Uber Justice League of sorts, where when there is a calamity that the Justice League cannot handle or it's above their pay grade, StormWatch is what deals with it. One of the things that we really liked about StormWatch was the outlandish powers, and in this issue we really get that. We also have a nice plot point kind of hinting at the conclusion that Adam is maybe not necessarily the best leader for StormWatch. So a couple of the hints in previous issues at that, we're going to deal with this in issue number 5. So that's also very nice. And the team dynamic is really something else. I mean, StormWatch continues to be a surprise for me, because I didn't know anything about the Wildstorm universe, but this is actually really good, and the action is so, because the powers are just so over the top conceptually, it may be difficult for some of you to find out what's going on, but overall, it's a great, enjoyable book. StormWatch number 4. Up next, Penguin, the miniseries, number 3 of 5. Nug and I have both really enjoyed this Penguin series so far, and number 3 continues to hit it out of the park. I'm really liking this Penguin book. I think this is one of the strong books of the Batman relaunch, if you want to call it that. I I'd actually rate this higher than Detective, which I'll talk about later on. But the art continues to just be amazing in this book, and the portrayal of Penguin and making him, I don't want to say a sympathetic character, but there's motivations for the evil, and it's not making excuses for it. I'm not saying, oh, it's okay that he's evil because he did that. There's no excuses for Penguin's actions, but you kind of get a sense of at how this character was created and what makes this Penguin tick. I really like this book, and if you're not picking it up and you can still find the first 2 issues, it's not too late. Come into the Silver Snail, pick up all 3 issues. I don't think you'll be disappointed. The art and the story is amazing. Penguin, number 3. Up next, Men of War, number 4. We actually really enjoyed number 1 and 2. Number 3, we felt the backup story was actually better than the overall book. Number 4 continues from number 3, but is a huge step up. We see Sergeant Rock and him dealing with the fallout of the revelation that one of his men has superpowers. The thing I like most about Men of War is that they are 100% human beings. Even the soldier who has superpowers, they depict him in a way that it's as if one of us had superpowers, but he was ashamed of it. It felt that he didn't belong to the core of the platoon, of the group. And that's a really nice portrayal to have. Sergeant Rock is badass in this, and also a leader. We get a little bit of story as to when this person developed the superpowers and the fact that he doesn't want them. And also we get a really fun backup called Skullbots. And it's just a lot of fun, but also deals with humans in a military setting with new equipment that they're trying out. And it's portrayed in a very realistic way. The terminology is bang on, the humor in trying out new equipment. It reminds me almost of scenes from RoboCop 2 when they're trying to make the new RoboCop. So, I mean, Men of War number 4 is definitely a step up from number 3, and it's back on track, and I can't wait for Men of War number 5. Up next, Red Lanterns, number 4. This book is not necessarily the rage book that we thought it was going to be, but you know what? They're doing a great job. And what I loved was they created a scenario where Atrocitus allows Bleez to have thought and not just blind rage. And instantly, he doubts his decision and needs to remedy that. So what does he do? He gives 3 more of the Red Lanterns that same kind of knowledge and the ability to think for themselves, so that they can think that maybe her plan of perhaps overthrowing Atrocitus or murdering him, spoilers, they might think it's a bad decision. So it's a really nice portrayal of the whole blind with rage followers versus thinking it through. You get a couple of backstories in terms of more of the Lantern characters and how they became Red Lanterns. There's a cliffhanger to this. I'm not going to spoil it to you. It kind of felt tagged on. Kind of like we need to end it with, you know, what's going to happen next issue. But I don't think it needed it. I think it could have been a little more fluid in terms of its pacing and its ending. We get a hint that one of the humans is going to become a Red Lantern. Hopefully that'll happen next issue. We don't want to drag it out too long. But overall, it's another strong issue. Ed Benes does great work on the art. Peter Milligan, great writing. Red Lanterns, number 4. It's not the Rage book, but it's the Thinking Red Lanterns book. Up next, Animal Man, number 4. Jeff Lemire, once again, hits out of the park. It's hard to say to come in, and I'm excited to read Animal Man number 4, so my expectations are really high for it. We've given the first 3 issues, they're always in our top picks. This is more the same great. If you're on board this Animal Man story, I don't want to ruin it for you because it's such a great story, and he's doing a great job. And now, see, as opposed to Red Lanterns, there's a last page here that just makes you cringe, and the ickiness of this book and the feel that Jeff Lemire and the artist travel for. And we haven't mentioned the artist before. He's doing such a great job with the ickiness of the drawings, and it just you know, when you're talking about the red and the rot, it's just amazing. And it also talks a little bit about the green and Swamp Thing and the future tie-up, which is also very nice. We deal a lot with Buddy and Little Wing, his daughter, and the whole idea of what's his purpose, and it's to protect her. We get a little bit more of that. Once again, Animal Man number 4 is 100% a pickup. Great work by the entire team. Up next, Swamp Thing number 4. Guys, this is once again my book of the week. Swamp Thing number 4, Scott Snyder, and Marco Rudy as fill-in artist for Yannick Paquette. He does a great job mimicking Paquette's work, maintaining the style of the overall story. We get a definite progression. And again, what I was explaining with Animal Man number 4 and the ickiness of it, this is just evil. There's stuff in this book that is just evil. And I love this bad guy. I love the fact that this is a kid wearing a scuba mask as a bad guy. This is great visuals in this book. Great storytelling. Abby Arcane is amazing. There's this great moment between her and Alec lying in the grass together. Once again, Swamp Thing number 4, a great book, my book of the week. Pick it up. If you're not doing so, you're missing out. Up next, OMAC number 4. This, after reading this comic in specific, I mean, Nug and I are both huge fans of OMAC. If you're not reading OMAC, again, you're making a huge mistake because it's just a fun book. And after reading number 4, I can safely say that this is a time capsule book. I mean, when a character walks away angry, they do that little steam at the top of their head. I mean, there's some great... I mean, I haven't seen drawing or paneling layouts like this in quite some time. Definitely channeling Kirby. Some great moments between Kevin and Brother Eye. The humor that was in the first 3 books continues in book number 4. The art is top-notch. I was not expecting to like OMAC. I know Nug was expecting to like it, maybe not as much as he does like it, but this is a pleasant surprise. And it is insane of me to say that when I look at the week's comics at what's being released, OMAC is at the top of the list of books I'm most excited for. So again, if you're not picking up OMAC, give it a chance. It's a fun throwback book. OMAC number 4. Up next, Huntress number 3 of 6. It's another miniseries written by Paul Levitz and art by Marcus Toe. And Huntress is... I've been really hard on Paul Levitz on his Legion books. I'm finding them very inaccessible. And as a new reader to the Legion, I'm just not getting it. Having said that, his Huntress book is really good. Last issue, I felt there could have been more story to it. This issue, the pacing is amazing. The art is beautiful. We really get the Huntress being badass, taking down a bunch of people. If you like strong female characters that are well thought out, Huntress is one of them. There's a panel in this book that, spoilers, for those of you who are following our review show, know that we're not sure if Huntress actually takes place in the DC universe proper or on the rumored Earth 2. She says that she has more of a predilection towards cats instead of dogs. Is that a hint that maybe there's some parentage there that also had a liking to cats? Who knows? But overall, Huntress number 3, another great book, another great Bat book. Next up, Action Comics number 4. Continuing the Brainiac invasion story, I'm guessing, although I don't believe the name Brainiac has been used yet, as well as a backup featuring Steel. If you've been following our review show, you know that I'm not a big fan of the revamp of Superman. Although Morrison and Morales, they do a great job on Action Comics. Is this book good? Yeah, it's good. I'm still waiting to really like the Superman character. I don't think it's actually in this book. I've read it twice today, trying to find stuff to grab onto. But I think Morrison is doing a good job setting up the actual story. I'm just finding it... I want Superman to be the main character in his book, and even though he is, why do I want to learn more about Steel and Lex Luthor? It's almost like they're giving the secondary characters more of a flushing out to know who that character is and what makes them tick, while Superman is really just left to be a physical presence. So, again, the art is good. I actually like the pacing of the story. I'm curious to see where we go next week. But Action Comics number 4, I'm still waiting for my Superman. And finally, Batman Detective Comics number 4, where Batman takes on the Doll Maker. I have given generally a positive review to Detective Comics. Aside from issue number 1 that I thought was cheesy, issues 2 and 3 kind of picked it up a bit. Issue 4, we're not dealing with the conclusion of the story, but some of this book really feels hollow to me. That some of the emotions that they were playing with didn't come through. And it was almost like they were added as a side thought, but we didn't invest enough in the characters to warrant an emotional response from the audience. I don't want to spoil it for you. It is Batman kicking ass and being badass, and I actually do like Commissioner Gordon. But a lot of the situations that we find the characters in are haphazard at best, and I kind of think that the story deserves a better issue to lead into the conclusion. At the end of this issue, they go back to what has most people talking about Detective Comics, the removal of the Joker's face, which I think is a good idea because the doll maker situation really hasn't been doing it for me. I mean, you know what? You might as well stop teasing the faceless Joker. Let's just get on with it because this is just dragging out now. So unfortunately, I can't recommend Detective Comics number 4 this week. But if you want to figure out where the story, is going, I mean, do pick it up. And now it's time, because Nug's not here, for Andrew's Red Tornado Watch. Nug would be very sad for me to tell you that there is no Red Tornado in this week's comics. Okay, and now it's time for our books of the week, and every week we pick 6. This week it's just my books of the week, but I think that we'll agree on these 6 books. StormWatch number 4, great book, great sci-fi, go pick it up. Penguin number 3. I'm really liking this series. If you haven't, give it a shot. I know you're thinking it's just Penguin, but this is a great book. Swamp Thing number 4, my book of the week. Go out, pick up Swamp Thing number 4, go out, pick up the first 3 issues. This is a great run by a great writer and a great art team. They care about the work. Animal Man number 4, another great book by Jeff Lemire. And I gotta get Travel Foreman. Great art on this book. I have not said enough in previous reviews. Animal Man number 4, continuing the story, very icky, amazingly icky. OMAC number 4, again, a throwback book. This is a time capsule. If you miss those old style comic books, this is the book for you. If you don't miss them, give it a shot. OMAC number 4, great book. And Huntress number 3. It's another Bat book. It's a great book. Give it a shot. Pick it up. I'll give honorable mentions to Action Comics. Red Lanterns was also good. Men of War was really good this week. Again, a lot of good books. I'm sure Nug really wishes that he were here, and it would probably be a lot funnier if he was here. He's the comedian. I'm just the guy who says stuff.